coming in, so I'll just let them as they come in. So how the sessions usually run for those who are joining us for the first time is that I'll open up with a poem, and then our guest poet will go ahead and the work. And then from there, we have a Q&A session where you can ask the guest poet any questions that you have to ask or any comments that you'd like to share about the work. And then we take a short break, and then we have a round of open mic. And then we take another short break. And then if there are more people that would like to read, we have another round of the open mic. So thank you everyone for being here. I'm actually going to start off with a poem written by myself because I have not read during our open mics in a very long time. So this is a new piece called Scraping Out the Womb. My bones were thrown in the fire. My mother's skin turned blue, bitten by the snakes. They came from the blanket when my father wrapped me in it. I unclipped my arms by my shoulders. I let them rust away. The fire came from my mother's womb. I took it out with me and left a single match. The burn was similar to the smell of sage, but cleaner. My mother took a deep breath in. Out I came, bringing the snakes with me. Okay, so without further ado, we have Beatrice Willoughby reading for us today, and we're really excited. So you can go ahead and start when you're reading, Beatrice.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to, the idea of reading my own poems for half an hour kind of freaks me out a bit. I much prefer reading other poets. So I'm going to include a few of some of my favorite poems that have sort of inspired me. Just kind of weave them into a reading with some of the poems from my debut collection, as well as some new unpublished poems. So I'm going to start with two poems by two different poets about their fathers. This is because I write a lot about my father too, and I think they're very beautiful. The first one is called Little Father by Lee Young Lee. I buried my father in the sky. Since then, the birds clean and comb him every morning and pull the blanket up to his chin every night. I buried my father underground. Since then, my ladders only climb down, and all the earth has become a house. Whose rooms are the hours, whose doors stand open at evening, receiving guest after guest. Sometimes I see past them to the tables spread for a wedding feast. I buried my father in my heart. Now he grows in me, my strange son, my little root who won't drink milk. Little pale foot sunk in unheard of night. Little clock, spring newly wet in the fire. Little grape, parent to the future. Wine, a son, the fruit of his own son. Little father, I ransom with my life. And this one is called Not Bad Dad by Jan Helle Levi. I think you are most yourself when you are swimming, slicing the water with every stroke. The funny way you breathe, your mouth cocked as though you're yawning. You're neither fantastic nor miserable at getting from here to there. You wouldn't win any medals, Dad, but you wouldn't drown. I think how different everything might have been had I judged your loving like I judge your butterfly, your Australian crawl. But I always thought I was drowning in that icy ocean between us. I always thought you were moving too slowly to save me when you were moving as fast as you can. I'm now going to read Missing Him, which is from So, my debut collection. Missing him, sketching on stoops, singing to sugar birds, snoozing in hammocks, standing on desks, shouting in traffic jams, basking in applause, plunging into pools, laughing at politicians, weeping in cameras, winking at cameras, blowing out candles, waking up tomorrow, waking up at all. 'Waking 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 up And this one is called Driving with Dad. To Doom we drove, to small country towns quivering with heat, to men with sharp objects jutting from skinny chins, to late suppers of undrained pasta, to child-unfriendly parties that went on, to sofas I cried myself to sleep on, to waking with the dashboard bashed head, to your sickbed, to your deathbed, to the authorization of your departure, to your waxy, gaping face, to many a fatherless Father's Day, to separate destinations, you and I. And then a slightly more light-hearted poem about my dad, which imagines how he would be if he was still alive today. It's called My Dad at 66. All his hair has gone, but his jawline is strong and his eyes are bright with mimicry. He likes feeding the koi with me. I let him name them after Oscar Wilde characters. He swims in my pool. He still wears earplugs when he dives. He tells me about the army, his shows in the 80s, and all his regrets. He tells me about his fear of blood, his love for my mother, and how he let her down. He and her chat often, and he reads all her books. He drinks my friends under the table. He and my uncle still laugh and talk. He and my aunt still laugh and fight. He has met a man, a musician perhaps. They live together and not in secrecy. Sometimes I visit them for lunch. Thank goodness the musician can cook. And I can't read a poem about my dad without some poems about my lovely mother. So this one is called For My Mother. How do you write for someone who means so much? How do you describe the person who gave you life? How do you honor she who wiped your tears, who tied your hair, who read you stories and let you sleep beside her for far too many years? How do you? You don't write. You live what she has written in you. You are kind, thoughtful, clever. You create, you love, you learn. You wake, you work, you walk. You go into the world and be, just as she taught you, just as she made you. That's how you tell her, I love you. And this one is called, I Will Be Your Mother. When I am your mother, I promise to be my mother and cut up apples and read you stories and write your essays. When I am your mother, I promise to be strong and love myself so I can love you, and fight for myself so I can fight for you. When I am your mother, I promise to let you wear tutus to buy groceries and let you sleep beside me and let you sleep beside me for as long as you need to. When I am your mother, I promise to buy you vodka spritzers on your 16th and say hilarious things so you say hilarious things and question you so you question the world. When I am your mother, I will be my mother. I will be my grandmother. That I promise. Cool. So moving on to, I feel like tonight I'm gonna cover all poetry strong topics, which for me it's like parents, love, death, and like many poets, I also write about writing and how it's both a passion and an affliction. So, whereas the person buries despair with pearls, wine, and strangers, the poet invites despair, pulls up a chair, offers some wine, says, stay a while, live through me. And then 5 excuses for not writing a poem. 1, The weather is a bit iffy. 2, I got 9 hours of sleep and not 10. 3, the world is ending, so what's the point? 4, I had a thought about going for a run. 5, I can't write about rhinos. Everyone wants to read about rhinos. And a lot of the poems that I write are inspired by my mother's wonderful poetry exercises that she sets. And this one I wrote during a previous relationship when I was very unhappy, but it's kind of sort of dry approach to it. And it's called, Would It Be So Wrong? Would it be so wrong to ask him to cut his hair? Short, like it was before I met him. I mean, I guess I don't mind it long, like my unending patience. I just preferred it when it was only my hair clogging the shower drain. He could snip away my resentment, give my hair ties back, and my hopefulness too. We could fill a pillow with his shorn locks, cutting every strand of jealousy, shaving every follicle, until we're nothing but skin and clean slate. And this one is called Tuesday is Garbage Day. You've packed your moisturizer and the shoes he hates. Your laptop is in the car. You are leaving. He is sitting at the counter, hunched over, cartoonish, almost embarrassing. Can I tell you something? He asks with a cracked voice. You are not a sociopath. You put your bags down and approach. She doesn't want to see me anymore, he wails. You nod. You notice a stain on the floor. He looks at you pleadingly, like he has a grazed knee and you are his mother. You wrap your arms around him. You hold him like a stranger loosely. You look out the window while he cries. In a voice that doesn't quite sound like yours, you say, I'm sure you can fix it. In a body that doesn't quite feel like yours, you stand there, chest wet with his despair. Finally, you pull away. You pour him a fizzy drink. He whispers, stay. You don't say, that was the last time you will ever touch me. You don't say, that was the last time I will ever comfort you. You don't say, your suffering brings me pleasure. You are not a sociopath. You say, Tuesday is garbage day. You reverse out of the driveway. And then moving swiftly into a new happy love poem. Being in love with you. We hold up our hands and press them against each other. Your fingers are much bigger than mine, and that makes us laugh. I read you a poem I've been thinking about. You listen. You ask me to read it again. I tie up my hair, and you say I'm perfect. We walk by the ocean. I point out my old school and the park I used to play in. I tell you what an average student I was. You say that simply isn't true. Back at my family home, I work by the heater, and you fry the eggs. I like them jammy, and so do you. You eat slowly, me not so much. You clear the plates, you scrub the oven clean, you quietly sit beside me. I say, I just have to finish. You say, I know. I just want to be close to you while you do. You place your pinky finger on my knee. I work. The cat paws you. So I'm going to read Future Sun, also from my new collection. I would like to have a son. I would like to teach him how to listen. I would like to show him how to step aside. And when those smaller, more feminine, less white than he stand up to speak, I would like him to be quiet. I would like him to rise by lifting others. I would like to show him how to love. with watching eyes, an open mind, and a different heart. I would like him to learn from whoever he adores and never use his deep voice or physical strength as an excuse. I would like him to cry. I would like him to say, I'm scared, I'm vulnerable, instead of action with fists or fury. I would like him to know what it is to be a man, to learn from women. So the next poem I'm going to read, because I think it leads into another one that I've written, is called Death Again by Jim Harrison. Let's not get romantic or dismal about death. Indeed, it's our most unique act along with birth. We must think of it as cooking breakfast. It's that ordinary. Break 2 eggs into a bowl or break a bowl into 2 eggs. Slip into a coffin after the fluids have been drained, or better yet, slide into the fire. Of course, it's a little hard to accept your last kiss, your last drink, your last meal, about which the condemned can be quite particular, as if there could be a cheeseburger sent by God. A few lovers sweep by the inner eye, but it's mostly a placid lake at dawn, mist rising, the solitary loon call, and staring into the still opaque water. We'll know as children again that what we are destined to know, that the water is cold and deep, and that the sun penetrates only so far. And this is a poem that I wrote, and it's called Life Again. I've been in this room before, where life ends. I've said what I'm saying now. I've seen what I'm seeing now. I can hear the loss, but I can't feel it. Instead, I'm aware of every drop of paint on the walls, every tile on the floor, every star in the sky. I can feel the whole world, but I can't feel it because I've been in this room before, and the only way I can get out is by staying numb. And sorry, I realize my reading list is a lot shorter than the time allocated, but that's fine. I'm going to read Splendid Things. All is my book. The cool side of a pillow on a midsummer's night. A dog's tail when you open the door. Your mother's face. That first sip of what is up to you. His hand on your waist. An owl's hoot. A child calling for you. Soft shirts. The smell of toast. Standing by the ocean or any body of water. Forgiveness. Old photographs. Books. Bread. It's worth mentioning twice. Using adverbs to recover from a hangover. Tasting water gratefully. Eating a pie ferociously. Remembering conversations ashamedly. Removing makeup gingerly. Self-pitying indulgently. Sleeping loudly. Green juicing proudly. Re-emerging triumphantly. And the second last poem I'm going to read is My Body's Apology. If my body could speak, she would say, here lies the scorpion sting of a curious thumb. Here sleep 2 large crying eyes. Here step 2 feet, ancient bunions grinding the earth. She would say, here is an overgrown calf forest. Here are 2 listening ears, and here 2 short thighs for getting up again. If my body could speak, she would say, here are 2 arms for consoling, a heart to be consoled, and a freckle on each knee. She would say, sorry I never won a race at sports day. Sorry I didn't grow taller. Sorry I like bread so much. If my body could speak, she would be apologetic. But she would say, girl, these breasts, this skin, the way I dance, the way I hold this mind of yours, I'm not sorry for any of that. The last poem I'm going to read is called The Point. It's a poem I often like to end readings with. It doesn't matter if your stomach isn't flat, if you don't get published, if you don't have children, if you do have children, if you're a bit outrageous, if you're a bit quiet, if you can't wake up at 5 a.m., if you want to eat cake at 3 a.m., if you want to talk a bit too much for once, if you don't want to listen to mansplaining, if you disagree, if you disappoint, if you miss the point, what matters is kindness, patience and presence, following joy, forgetting words spoken in anger or without thought, remembering not to speak in anger or without thought, watching anxiety pass you like you watch the ocean's waves pass you. What matters is telling someone they're great if you think they're great, telling someone they're wrong if you think they're wrong, telling yourself what matters, finding the point.
Wow. Thank you so much, Beatrice. It was amazing. Where can we buy your collection?
Exclusive books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's amazing. I mean, I loved every piece that you read. I especially loved the one that you said you wrote about imagining what your father would be like now if he was still alive. And it's such a powerful piece. And I actually, as we're going to start the Q&A session now, I'll start us off. I wanted to find out if writing about your family, if it has told you something about them that you didn't know before and that you didn't have to ask them about, but if it kind of revealed something to you about their characters.
Definitely. I think writing is very therapeutic, and you discover a lot about yourself and definitely the people in your life. I think for my dad, particularly because a lot of these poems are kind of using my imagination as well, and pieces of what I remember of him to sort of, create the narrative. But yeah, there's actually another poem that I'm still working on that I wrote about my mom, and it's almost taught me more about her while writing. It's a strange thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I thought it was so interesting because I tend to also write a lot about my family without even realizing it. And then I have these moments where I'm like, oh, I didn't even, realize that I felt this way about this person or that they were this type of person in general. So thank you for sharing that. It was beautiful. So if anybody has a question, you guys can just unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask Beatrice the question. You can go ahead, Jacques.
Beatrice, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Oh, that's wonderful. That always feels like a bit of a miracle, actually, when that happens on a Zoom session. But I absolutely loved your reading, and I love the way you make absent people so present in the poems. I mean, it's extraordinary, I think. I was curious about the poem where you have to stay numb to leave the room, because for me, so many of the poems are about feeling deeper into something so you can move through it. Well, that's my impression anyway. So I'm curious about that room, the room where you have to protect yourself to get out of it. I mean, I think I got that right, or am I?
Yes, no, that's exactly it. I think because a lot of people will read my poems and say exactly that, like, oh, you know, you are so brave and you're clearly a very emotional person. But if you see me in a day-to-day basis, I'm very reserved. And I think that's also having witnessing quite a lot of people in my life die quite young, a sort of coping mechanism became to sort of, I suppose, disassociate a little bit, kind of, where I felt like I was watching the scene. And I think poetry has really been a way for me to then later reflect and feel all the feelings that in the moment I wasn't quite connecting with. You know, I don't know if that really answers your question, but yeah.
It's a way of, I mean, it's a way of being as kind to yourself as you can, you know. You still have to leave the room, and you still have to leave
Yes.
that relationship, and you say, well, you know, just remember, you know, don't smoke in bed, you know, Tuesday is garbage day. You know,
I know that's lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Danya. I saw your message in the chat. I hope I'm saying your name right.
If anybody else has a question, please feel free to go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask. Jacques, do you have another question, or is that an old hand?
I feel a bit impertinent, but to ask another one. But did your father do a version of The Importance of Being Oscar in the mid-90s at the Grahamstown Festival?
I see my mom is on the call. She would know better than me.
Okay.
Did he?
So I think that was him.
She's on, Mom, you're on mute, eh?
No, he didn't, but the two of you could tell, Jacques, Beatty and her father did a beautiful performance when she was very young of Oscar Wilde's fairy tales.
Yes.
Yeah. And we
I
still have
remember.
the video recording, and I actually want to put it on YouTube at some time, but it's outstanding. Yeah.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah, he had a one-man show, I think. And yeah, he did a lot of theatrical work. Yeah, well, I'll hand over to the open mic then.
Margaret, I think did you have a question?
I was going to ask whether you say you have the same prompts as we do, as when I come to a Fenula's workshops. So do you do that every week as well, or was this just when I've seen you sometimes there?
Yeah, I try and do them as often as possible. I mean, I'm lucky that I get access to them. I get
Yes.
access.
So if you're not there, you get access to them anyway.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, my mom's exercise are amazing, and
I know. Well, I wouldn't be writing poetry if I didn't have them. I don't think. I'm too lazy to do it normally. But then I thought, well, no, I must. How can I do something with this? And
yeah. I know some you just read the prompt.
they give you really, give you these ideas.
Amazing. So if there aren't any other questions, we will take a 5-minute break. And then when we get back, we are going to start with the open mic. So you guys are welcome to share your own poems or even poems by other poets that you would like to share. So we will come back at 8:08. I was getting confused reading the time. So we'll come back at 8:05.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.